Hi, this is Chiezan, the prior at SokukoJi Buddhist Monastery. Sokuzan offers these talks without expecting anything in return. If you value these talks and would like them to continue, please visit our donate page at www.sokukoji.org. Thank you.
Receiving is something I've been talking about for years, but quite often talking about the same thing. Not all that complicated. It just takes a while to sink in, so to speak. Receiving, this is a practice, the awareness practice is about receiving. It's not about thinking, but we don't get rid of thinking. We're not going to throw it out and try to be just awareness, nothing else. Not about that. It's not about any kind of accepting, rejecting, shutting down, or warfare. Very hard to do. So the karma that brought us into this life, the karma that just brought us in front of this particular teaching, let alone this teacher, is without a source. You can't find out why this caused that. You can find out why this caused this sound. That's a very simple karma, relative truth. The whole world is run like that. He did that, therefore he's wonderfully famous, he's great. Or he did this, and he did that, therefore we're going to lock him up, he's going to prison. It's just like such a cut and dried society, culture, and everything. And it's all about what control. It's about control. We'd like to control ourselves. Wouldn't you like to just, when you have negative feelings, just turn them off? Have negative feelings, just stop feeling that way. Have negative feelings, just replace them with positive feelings. This is quite often what happens when, should I stop? This is quite often what happens when we try to replace negative feelings with, you could say artificial stuff like alcohol or drugs of various sorts. It actually works to some extent. It will switch things out, but there are all kinds of other, obviously, side effects and repercussions from that. Very difficult stuff. Just so difficult, and so difficult to get any fundamental understanding in our society, although there are a lot of people in our society that can help us with that. As you know, we go to doctors, we go to psychiatrists, we go to therapists, we go here, we go there, we go to cardiologists, we go to endocrinologists. I could go on and on. We all know there's a way of working with relative truth that is very, very effective. I can't really guarantee it. If we could, they guarantee that doctors would have all kinds of lawsuits because there's too many times when it comes apart. You can't really, you can hold your auto repair dealer or auto repair person responsible to something. It's pretty hard to hold your psychiatrist to. They're working with a different deck of cards, not to be too silly about it. There's that word silly again. How many times have I said silly in the last 3 days?
I know of 6.
6? Where do you get that written down? So what conclusion are you coming to? I've used the word silly 6 times. So what does that tell you?
It's when you're bowing a curiosity. It's a word that hasn't shown up that much.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm getting to is, and trying to emphasize, is not that you'd be a student of mine, you join this or join any kind of organization, or not that you even meditate. This is up to you. I think, I feel, and both those words work, I feel and I see that something that does help, it may not solve all of your issues, but it does help if you can slow way down, cut through the speediness of your life for an hour a day. Just could be longer, could be shorter, and just observe what the mind continues to do. It's just called meditation. The way I teach it is about as simple as it comes. And I practice some very, very complicated forms of meditation. Lots of it. I won't go into how much, but a lot. Decades worth. But here I am encouraging you. Whether you think of yourself as a student of mine, if you're listening to me for the next, 40 minutes or whatever it may be, then you're probably functioning somewhat as a student, at least you're listening. What do students do? Receive. And that's the title of this Dharma talk, receiving. Don't do anything with it, just receive it. The kind of understanding In the relative world, as you receive it and you understand it, and you get it, and you can take a test on it, you can get somewhere, and you can kind of control some things and maybe not others. Maybe you can get, a bachelor's degree or a PhD. And this is all completely valid. I'm not here to discount the relative world at all. We couldn't eat, or we couldn't have shelter. There's so many things that we count on relative stuff, relative truth. So not getting rid of that. But a deeper understanding, to use the relative term, of what is happening, it seems, needs to be done not by a teaching where I'm telling you this, or don't do this, or study this, and I'll give you a test and all of that, but to actually encourage you to turn within. Turn within. This is difficult because when we turn within, it's different for each person, but we might have a whole lot of commotion going on that we can actually stop from going on by just turning without and looking back and occupying ourselves with watering our plants or discussing politics with our neighbor. We can fill your whole life up full of relative activity. Most of the world, billions of people are doing this. Even so-called, here again, it's a description, not a criticism, but so-called people who have a religious life or a spiritual path. They may and they may not. Only they will really know. You can fill your life up with all kinds of other activity that can give you the feeling of value, of living a wholesome, uplifted life, of having a life that's, what is a common word, fulfilling. Please, if you can do that, don't do this. Go do it. Go be happy. You don't need my permission, of course, but I'm saying I'm not trying to get you away from your happiness. If you can be happy in this life, please do that. But if you are spinning, going in circles and bumping into things and are confused about what that is, I can help you, because my first many decades of my life were really miserable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. If I were happy and everything was successful, or even semi-successful, as I wanted to be a great artist when I was very young. If I had been successful as a great artist, I would not be here. I'd be being a successful artist, just wallowing around in my narcissism. How wonderful I am, and I'm probably, people even think I'm as good as Picasso, or who knows what kind of crap would have been going on. But now there's not much going on in my mind. What's going on in my mind is you. And how do I mean that? I mean, if I have your permission, I can help you see what the fundamental misunderstanding is in the mind stream. This is a basic teaching that goes back thousands of years. And what is it? A belief in a self and belief in an other, duality. It looks so real. I'm over here, you guys are over there. I can talk and you can listen, or you can listen, I can talk. And it looks so polarized. Someone commits a crime, or someone builds a monument, or someone paints a masterpiece, or composes a wonderful piece of music and gets credit. Someone else, because of their karma, they go down into some kind of labyrinth and end up at a party store with a bunch of other people, and someone gets shot. They didn't do it, but they go to prison anyway. Causes and conditions. Just like a person who looks totally healthy, and then the next week you hear that they have a brain tumor. You don't know what's coming. And the other thing is that those of you who are very young, and obviously I'm very old, but health, you can't be sure of that. Sickness, aging, and death. Sickness can start really early. There are people in our community that are very young, in their 20s, 30s, that have illnesses that are very difficult, very challenging to deal with. And part of that is those illnesses in some way brought them to the path. The path is not solving them for them, but might give them a more, shall we say, sane way of working with something that seems to be inevitable. Sickness, aging, and death. Not something I made up. And it's not negative particularly. It sounds like it, but it's just true. We get sick, we get old, and we pass away. But that which passes away is unreal. It is an illusion. Don't believe me? Consider it. just receive this teaching. Do not understand or try to understand what I'm saying. If what I'm saying to you is confusion or seems confusing in the relative sense, if you're studying to be a biologist, then you might have to talk to the teacher and try to get some kind of understanding so you can understand what the difference between an amoeba and a paramecium is. And I can tell you right now, one's long and one's round. Trying to see if I can wake you up. But on the spiritual path, not knowing is part of the path, actually. But it's the difficulty we have with that is the ego mind does not want to not know; it wants to know. So therefore, you may be drawn to a teacher who will give you more of the feeling that you're getting somewhere and that you know, and you're having progress on the path, like the 10 boomies or something like that. I don't teach those. I don't ignore them, and we can talk about them all day long if you like. I'll study them, but I just don't use them because they're too. We're trying to look for, am I in the 3rd boomie or the 4th boomie? I can tell you which boomie you're on. Just come up and face me. That's hard to do. It's hard to sit in front of this person. People do it anyway. Hard to sit because I'm more interested in your true nature, you seeing your true nature so you can have ultimate happiness than in the kind of happiness that you may be all knotted up in, trying to maintain, trying to keep away the bad thing, have more good stuff. Addicted to your positive thoughts. This is not the power of positive thinking, nor am I against that. I think if you can have uplifted, kind, loving thoughts, by all means, please do that. Do that for others. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we're in bad shape, and so some of the ways that is approached is to cover it up or change it or do something about it to get rid of it. And my understanding of that, and the way I teach it, is to look right at it, look the demon right in the eyes, so that you can see what it is, so that you, as it says, physician, heal thyself. I don't know who said that, but it certainly wasn't Dr. Oz. So awareness about what is showing up. And then as soon as you see what's showing up, I don't care how ugly, how beautiful, how insignificant it is. If it's happening in your mind stream, receive it. Please receive it. And you can train yourself to, you could say, get better at receiving and have less pushing away or less modifying or projecting onto it. In other words, it's easier I can receive this if I have my prejudice about what it is. Or I can receive this if I have projections about interpretations of what it is, rather than just receive it with just bare attention. Let the bear step right in your face. Not easy to do that. I can't make any promises about this. Maybe if I made promises, I did have 20 more students. Go ahead,
When you're bowing, what you just said, look the demon right in the eyes. How would we identify a demon?
I'm using that just as an image. But look, whatever the difficulty, if you're feeling something you want to cover up the eyes by covering it up with a name like depression or like anxiety, don't give it a name. You give it a name, then you're covering up what it is. I'm not saying it even has any eyes. It's not. Just speaking of that figuratively. But look the emotion when you have that emotion before you give it a name or interpret it, and leave the emotion by trying to judge it, evaluate it, pigeonhole it, give it a category, or do any kind of thinking about it. Look right at it. And this is where it's so valuable to know that the consciousness, awareness, that which is observing, does not run on relative knowledge. So when I say the initial experiences in this area, when you begin to do this, is the feeling of not knowing, which to ego feels like you're failing. This can't be the true spiritual path. I'm getting worse. Well, you're probably going to have to get worse, or at least seem like that. You're actually not getting worse. You're just starting to be aware of the crap you've been covering up. Stop it. And I know you can't just stop it. I can't stop what is happening over here. But I'm saying when I say stop it, that will bring your attention to it. You'll put pressure on it and you'll see that you can't stop it. This is awareness, not failure. You just see that you do not have the say-so or the control around your life you thought you had. I'm sorry to say that, to give you the so-called bad news, but actually it's good news, because that's what you have to go through. That's the gate. That is a Dharma gate. Dharma means truth. Gate means something that opens up or something that's locked. Go through that gate. I will help you. I will help you see this. Yes.
Beyond bowing. When I believe that I have a need and I'm functioning out of that need, speaking, behaving, can I also receive at the same time?
Give me an example of what do you mean by need?
Well, it seems a lot of my speech and behaviors are driven by these ideas that I need something. And so when that's,
Do you need something?
yeah, now and again,
Now and again,
all the time.
all the time. What do you need?
It kind of depends on the situation.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, but I'm not trying to make things more difficult. I'm saying, really look at that. That is a really great area. As a meditator, you sit down, you could ask yourself, do I really need anything? I mean, if you're ill, you probably would like to be healthy. And if you're sleepy, you would like to get some sleep. So you might need some sleep. Those are very relative things. We're not trying to get rid of those. Not trying to be some kind of a, what do they call those? What do they call those kind of heroes? Rumi would know. He's not here. So it's a relative needs. We're talking about those, but there's some kind of need that you need that need that you think you need or want that you're kind of inventing or building up. What is that?
Beyond bowing, I can give you a more specific example.
Okay.
There may be a need to know why I keep doing something over and over again, or why somebody else keeps doing something, why something's happening.
You have a
that-
question or should I respond? Either way, there's no right or wrong.
I'd like to hear you.
It's the why question that creates the circle. Why? Because there's always going to be a big cause. There's always going to be some kind of cause and effect. Why is there a sound? Because this moved through the air and ran into the table. It wanted to go all the way to the floor, but no, the cable got in the way and it produced that. Totally different thing. Kind of a silly, there's that word again. Some word I could use. Kind of a, help me.
It's always good.
I need to have a better word. Where's Elijah? He knows lots of words. Elijah's only 2 years old, and every time he sees me, he says, Sokuzan. Pretty amazing. I really need that recognition from 2-year-olds. Yes.
Beyond bowing. So when that kind of belief, perceived
Yes.
need is happening, or very present, am I able to receive when that's having its way?
As long as you see, as long as you receive that without pushing it around or trying to manipulate, don't do anything with it. Just see the need or see the desire. This is the second noble truth. The first one you know is suffering, discontent, unhappiness, dissatisfaction. And the reason that is the second noble truth is we want something else. We don't want that. We want something better, something bigger, something smaller. So what's your question?
Beyond bowing, when I believe I have a need, am I able to receive?
How does it look to you?
Like I'm making things more difficult.
Probably because the need may be tied in with just wanting something. You want to eat something, but it's not happening. You have something else you have to do. It's not a big deal. But when you have a need that is just not happening, and then it becomes a demand, and then might not be having an actual tabletop you're pounding on, but in your mind you're doing that. Yeah, this needs to be this way. It's almost like it got to be happening that way. You're not settling for any variables or any second class results. So then it's suffering, then you're just, it's totally an outflow rather than any kind of receiving. You're just producing thoughts, ideas, emotions, judgments, opinions, evaluations, blaming probably. So what do we do with that? Receive it. Turn anything that's happening into receiving as much as you can without putting some kind of a modification to it, so you can have the illusion you're receiving, and actually you're just covering it up more.
Oh, yeah, being bowing. So if the best I can do is receive what's happening in my own mind stream, am I not putting others before me?
I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying here. Are you able to receive what happens in your own mind stream?
I
Hmm?
I don't know yet.
Okay, then what's the other part of the question? If
If-
that doesn't follow, if you aren't receiving what's happening in your mind stream. In other words, when thoughts arise, think. When feelings arise, feel. No commentary on. Are you doing that?
Maybe once in a while. Okay.
So your body language is telling me that you're not really clear. That tells you if you saw me.
Not so sure.
Not so sure. So what was the second part of the question?
If the best I can do is receive what's happening inside of me, will I be putting myself before others?
If you're receiving what's happening in your mind stream without objecting, agreeing, or shutting down, without objecting, aggression, without agreeing, passion, without shutting down, ignorance, then you're really not separating yourself from others. You're not creating some kind of separation. Fundamentally, you're not separate from anyone. But the ego mind, the self-centered mind, the narcissistic mind will create polarities based on judgment, evaluation, conclusions, prejudice, and all that. That's why the world is such a mess, because that's happening everywhere. There's so little of a spiritual path happening, even with people who are generally kind, loving people who get tied up in all of the aggression in the world, and then they start creating havoc also by fighting with the aggression, fighting with the so-called evil or ignorance. You can't fight with that. Don't agree with it. Don't fight with it. Don't ignore it. That's hard to do, especially if the whole thing has been centuries and centuries of a landslide of humanity slowly caving into itself with intense hatred, desire for controlling others, intense gaining idea, intense greed for power and wealth. We see it everywhere. Our so-called lawmakers have not created a structure. They've tried, which actually gives everyone what do they call that? Equal opportunity. Just everywhere you look, it's just all coming apart. Take a few stabs at it, and then it just starts to fall apart again. And then the billionaires take over, or trillionaires. So that's happening in our mind stream. The ego mind, the self-centered mind, wants control, wants to be right. If you have thoughts that you believe in, this is ego. But you can have thoughts, we just don't believe them, because thoughts are dependently risen. They're no more real than this, and this is unreal. This is an illusion. Do not believe me. I'm not trying to promote the belief or the disbelief in anything. What am I trying to promote is Be aware. Be aware of who you are, what this is. You don't owe me anything. You can leave here and never have to see you again. It's up to you if you want to talk to me anymore, listen to me. But if you take anything away from this at all, train your mind. Don't get your authority from anyone, me or anyone else, not even the Buddha. You get it. You find out who you are. And I can give you a way to do that. Sit still, watch the confusion of the mind. Don't fix it. Don't shut it out. Don't fluff it up. Don't. Just receive. Receiving the world will tell you it might not happen this year or next year, but eventually just receiving everything, including your own crazy mind stream, you will eventually see the truth. Can't guarantee it, but it's very likely that will happen because you're not adding to the confusion with your uninspected aggression. No, you're looking at the aggression. You're holding still and watching the aggressive mind come and go. The passion, grasping, greedy mind come and go. And the shutting down, ignoring, distracting mind come, go away, come back, go away. Awareness. Receiving. Yes.
When you're bowing, I believe you just said receive everything to see the truth.
Yes.
Is everything we see the truth?
Excuse me. Everything you see on the path, there's ground, path, and fruition. The ground is the suffering, which the whole world is going through. What do you do about that? All kinds of approaches. Go to a doctor. Relatively, they may be able to help you more than what I'm recommending with this particular lifetime. It's just that there's more than just this particular lifetime. Excuse me, I'm looking at it. The doctor probably not. They're thinking that when you die, you're dead. I don't see it that way. So this does not end. You will be back, and you may not have any idea whether you're going to be born in Somalia or Bluefield Hills, and whether you're going to be a man, a woman, or whether your orientation is going to be totally different than your biology, or what color your skin will be, or what planet you might not even be on this planet. There's life forms everywhere, not just humans. Not separate. Go ahead.
When you're bowing, another question: is consciousness a witness?
It can witness if there's an other. If there's something that seems to be other than itself, which is what the illusion is, then you can witness it, yes.
Is that relative truth then?
It's a high level of relative truth. It's the path, a high level of the path is witnessing what is showing up. The fruition of that is the witness vanishes into what is being witnessed. And then what is being witnessed vanishes into consciousness. And then consciousness vanishes into the absolute. Don't believe anything I say. I'm looking at it, but you need to see that yourself. That's why I'm saying don't believe me. You ask me a question, I respond out of what I'm looking at. And I've been looking at this for a number of years. Not originally. I spent well over 3 decades feeling like I didn't know what the hell I was doing, who I was, or where I was going, or what I was doing. It was even correct. All I knew is I put my, you could say, faith or trust in my teacher. At least the first one. Anyone on Zoom? Come on, Jishi, you must have a question. Sit there like a mom.
Jishin bowing. During the study today, there was a sentence which was, and it was Dogon, very complicated. It was a sentence which was talking about the teeth, and I don't have the text in front of me, so I cannot give the whole sentence.
So what's the gist of it?
So my question is that teeth symbolized by our ego?
Oh, you mean someone who steals things?
Yes.
I'm one of those people. I started out with, I could not keep my hands off other people's stuff. I stole out of my mother's purse, and it was just a terrible little monster. So what do you want to know about me?
I'm wondering if ego is a thief, and what is it stealing?
It is stealing your wisdom mind by wrapping itself up in itself and being self-centered, narcissistic, and so on. So it's stealing your wisdom mind. Hope and fear are the parts of ego. Hope for something better steals your wisdom. Fear of something worse steals your wisdom. It's a bandit. But all you have to do is see this, and it starts to come apart because it manifests and keeps its muscles going by being able to do this through the power of the illusion that we believe in. We believe that this is true, and we fight with it. We believe that it's true, and we want to run away from it. We believe that it is true, and we ignore it, distract ourselves, think about something else. Passion, aggression, ignorance again. As I said, you find out. And how can you do this? I think it's necessary to have a teacher, but that's just how it looks to me. Maybe not. Maybe you just should do this by yourself. I think it's good to study traditional teachings together. Maybe you don't have to do that. Do whatever you need to do. And I also think it's necessary to train your mind a lot by sitting down and watching the illusion over and over and over that we believe in. The first indication you can have this is an illusion is to know that you can sit for an hour, look at a wall, and believe everything that comes in your head. That you actually are having thoughts are unreal. There's no such thing as the thought. There's no such thought as a thing. It's just unreal. It's there. It shows up. We can talk about, well, what are you thinking about? What do you think about this or this or this? And then we can share our thoughts about it. And some people are extremely adept at this. So therefore, it gives a stronger feeling that, well, we just can't quite think as clearly as Joe can. I'm not talking about Joe Rogan. More, Jishi?
Jishin Bowing, thank you. I have another question also from our
Certainly.
study. We were talking about the intention and the express that we can express our Buddha nature or may not. Does Buddha nature have an intention to express itself? Bowing.
Well, it may, but it doesn't need to do anything. Buddha nature is not particularly an activity. It's just it's a word. Buddha means awake, and nature just means the quality of something or the dynamic that is happening with something. The awakened nature. The awakened nature is doing what? It just receives. It's awake. Awakening doesn't produce a damn thing. Just as soon as you open your eyes in the morning, you immediately start receiving the room, the colors of the room, the amount of cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. You start receiving, and you take whatever you're receiving and start adding on constantly all kinds of chit chatter about it. Who should take those cobwebs down? Why the cobwebs are even there? You probably have a crack in your molding where the air is coming through, and spiders like cold air. I've been told recently. But you're just awake. You're just awake. And this is why it's so important to listen to this, the title of this talk, which is Receiving. My friends, so simple. The beginning of the practice of receiving is see how you keep shutting out, how you keep closing off, how you keep, other ways of closing off is to, as soon as something shows up, like the cobwebs on the ceiling, is to, instead of receiving what that is, you're really receiving what that is, you won't know what it is. The name cobweb will not appear right away. It'll just be that. But what might show up is who should remove that, or any number of things that triggers something else. The other way of covering up is to have a lot of judgments, opinions, and prejudice. Walking down the street and seeing someone who doesn't look like you, and they're prejudiced, you don't get a chance. The ego mind, this fear-based mind, fear and hope and fear-based mind, won't give us a chance to live our life and experience this incredible. Look what we're missing. You have all these nerve endings, and what are we doing? We're using the thought process to cover up what everything you smell, taste, touch, hear, covering it up with ideas, thoughts, prejudice. We don't want to be vulnerable. We get paranoid, and we just don't want to be vulnerable. So we start to cover it all up with our ideas, our conclusions about things, and greediness and so on. It's not wrong. It's just a way of working with it that perhaps we have not had the training. We have not been around people who are awakened beings. We've been around people who they've been taught to fight, don't trust anybody, and conclude this. This is what you should believe. This is what you should do. Not wrong. It's just relative stuff.
Jin bowing. One more, please. So
Go
what
ahead. But after you're done, then we need to open it up for other people to ask questions, okay?
sure. When with our intention, when
Yeah,
we have an intention to return to the wall and to help others,
yes.
is it the expression of the Buddha nature intention? Bowing.
If it helps you to say it that way, then yes. I'm just saying that I hesitate to nail anything down because it becomes a standard. Not interested in standards. Do you see why? Do you see what I'm saying? There's a why question for you. It's because we need to have just this open dimension where we don't know what's happening. We don't know what this is. So therefore, when something does arise in it, you know exactly how to relate to it out of the awareness rather than out of your positionality of being right or your positionality of being better than that thing that's arising or knowing more than that thing that is arising. This is what the whole world runs on, this kind of an engine of otherness, of right and wrong, up and down, back and forth. We don't need to do that. It's hard because we're in a society where that's what's being hyped up and elevated. And if you step outside that even a little bit, you can be locked up and it's going to get worse. If the police state that looks like it's threatening us right now is on its way, this whole multi-million-dollar police station down here won't be just a building you drive by. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to elaborate on that. And you could say, am I paranoid? Yeah, I am. But I know what to do about it. And I can tell you what to do about it. Train your mind so that your fear doesn't get sucked into that insanity where you go to war with that situation. Fight with it. Don't fight with that. Don't fight with yourself. Everything, if you don't do anything, then there isn't anything but stillness and silence and peace. That's one of the 4 marks of existence is peace. But we cover it up with our passion, aggression, ignorance, grasping, hoping, fearing, on and then on and on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. Come on, you guys. You'll let me up here, sit up here and run my mouth. Never had.
Go
ahead.
I find lots of passion and aggression when I try to open myself to be open to learn new things. Of course, there's some curiosity there. But this passion and aggression try to get out the comfort zone just for my openness. Is that a concern on this path? Bowing.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by is it a concern? You're aware of it, so that's the idea, is to be aware, but don't particularly push it away, make judgments about it, evaluate things, or add any kind of analysis to it or blame something. Try to turn the off switch. Just receive it. You'll know what to do. If you receive it without comment, It's the situation you're describing is difficult enough. So don't do anything with it. Don't elaborate on it. The ego wants to elaborate because the ego gets its identity from knowing things and understanding why this happened and who did it and how this could be stopped and how this could be controlled. This is the mundane path that has a great deal of success in it. There are people who, I don't want to just complain about Tony Robbins. I'm sure Tony Robbins helps all kinds of people, and people feel better from working with him. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay him so many millions of dollars. But it's still a circular path. It's a path of results.
玉红报应, yes. I feel like the concern is more of like setting a goal for myself to learn new things. You know, it could be a skill, could be something fun.
Yeah.
So it's more of the needs to try or to do something.
I think that's fine. I'm not objecting to any of that. Learn anything. Learn another language, or learn how to paint, or do woodworking, or learn something you can generate more income with them. I'm not, misunderstand. I'm not saying we all need to go to the mountaintop and meditate the rest of our lives. This monastery is very much about family, and everyone here, just about everyone here, has some kind of activity, has a job of some kind. It's not particularly easy to have the life of a monk and also have to work for a living. In ancient times, the society, the community was a different kind of community and supported people who were monastics. Even in the Roman Catholic tradition, quite often the people there are, isn't that true, are supported by the people who donate. So the Cistercians and the what?
Capuchins,
Franciscans, Dominicans, thank you. So all of these, they don't work for a living. I mean, they work, and they might have all kinds, might do gardening or maybe lots of other things that I don't even know about. But their spiritual path is emphasized by the structure of the Roman Catholic Church. So we don't have that. Soto Shu in Japan, or the Karma Kagyu tradition of ancient Tibet, that probably don't even know about us here as a monastery. So again, it's the awareness thing that's important, not pushing, pulling, or shutting down, or improving, or getting better. You may improve. You may be less feisty around people. You may be better able to listen to people and see what kind of difficulties they're having. Sometimes people just are helped so much just by having somebody to listen to that doesn't give them a bunch of advice. Just listen, and if they ask you for help, you can actually say, I don't know. It sounds like a difficult situation. I don't know what you should do, but it might be quite cathartic for that person to be able to have somebody to talk to about it. You could receive the complaints of the world without comment. Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Valley, is the spiritual path circular?
True spiritual path is not. When I say true, I'm saying go right towards the truth. All it takes is the intention. You don't have to know what it is. Just be clear that it's a spiritual path and you're going to go there. You're going to find out what the fundamental truth of being a living being is yourself, with the help possibly of a teaching, with the help of a teacher, with the help of a community, or do it yourself if you can. It looks like the Buddha did it himself, but he had a couple of teachers also. We don't know for sure what happened back there. If it starts to go in circles, it's not that saying that there isn't a true quality happening there, or a true intention or sincerity. There'd be tremendous sincerity in that. But if it kind of gets tired of looking into the dark and wants more light, it could go towards artificial or temporary light and go in circles and congratulate itself that it's gotten somewhere. Write a book and sell 1 million copies. Usually will do it. There are lots of people out there writing spiritual books. I'm one of them. I have books too that are about meditation. So, yes.
Valley, if we aren't encouraged to go to the mountaintop, we still have to live a relative life. And it seems like the relative situation is a bunch of circles.
Yes,
Are those circles included in the non-circular spiritual
I
path?
think so. I think if there's it's just like in your situation, you don't live in the monastery anymore, but you used to. You live a few miles away, but you come here quite often, what, once, twice a week or something like that, somewhere in that area. You still practice at home. You practice here. It's a lot harder, I'm sure you found, to practice when you don't live right in the monastery. Whereas here, you can get more time in. Even here, you might not practice the full schedule, but it's about the intention. It's not what you do, it's the intention. I even say with a block set, when I teach somebody how to do this, I say, sit down, strike the gong, and stay there as long as you can without struggle. And then they might say, well, I got up in 10 minutes. This is not a problem. It's awareness of movement. It's not awareness of holding very still and accomplishing something. This is a big misunderstanding. It's very easy to misunderstand it. I misunderstood it myself for 3 decades in teaching people how to do something I was taught. Now I teach what I'm looking at. I don't teach what I was taught. Some things that I was taught I teach because it looks like they're pretty good. But not all. This doesn't mean I disagree necessarily. Some teachers are teaching in different ways. I don't know what that's like, but if they have a student, then probably something is working. A student teacher, that's important. But to come back to your inquiry, I would say, from what I can see as your teacher, I would say you're doing fine. Just continue. Get the cushion as much as you can. And don't make excuses. And if the excuse shows up on its own, receive it. Because they will. You'll know why you're getting off the cushion, because your knee hurts or you're just tired. You need to take a nap. You can't stay there for 4 hours. And I sometimes say, start out, strike the gong. It's not a very good gong. Strike the gong. 4 hours later, come back. And even if you only sat for 10 minutes in the whole 4 hours, that's a block set. That's how I teach that. Eventually, if you have the intention to do that, then eventually that it might take a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's possible you might never sit there for a full 4 hours, but there's a good possibility that time will expand on its own as it works conditionally with your own life and with the strength of your intention and so on. More about that? Is that helpful what I'm saying? So it's not about success. Please don't look at that. You don't be concerned if it keeps showing up, failing. That's also awareness. Awareness of failure, awareness of success. It's just polarized stuff that keeps showing up that the ego mind pushes, grasps at, and turns into some kind of a idea, an evaluation. Yes. So,
Grand Valley,
yes.
is that teaching the same as watch what moves?
It is. More.
So Grand Valley, are you pointing to impermanence?
That's what you're going to see as long as you believe the illusion. As long as you believe what you're watching move, I think it's a true thing. The emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, the memories, the movement in the living room or down the street or outside the window, then that's impermanent. Now, everything that shows up is going away, including your most horrible thought or emotion. Won't last. But it will tend to persist if you fight with it. Just like if somebody attacks you, if you fight back, that will persist. Which is not particularly promoting you to just cave in and let somebody beat you up. You may have to use your creativity somewhere.
So Grand Valley, if receiving shows up as an abstract idea, can I instead focus on impermanence and have that be the same teaching?
No.
How are they different?
Are you talking about on the cushion? Right?
Yes.
One is an abstraction, is conceptual, and the other one is something you fail at. You continue to fail. and don't worry about the result. More?
So Grandma, I don't understand.
Can you smell? Right now, smell anything?
Yes.
What do you see? You see?
Something solid.
Okay, that's a conclusion. Don't conclude. If you can do that, that's the practice when you're sitting and you're facing the wall. This is why we do with the eyes open. That's the sense fields that has the most convincing illusory quality of being separate. Sense of smell is a little bit distant. Sense of taste is pretty intimate. Sense of touch is pretty intimate. Sense of hearing, so on. There's a kind of intimacy there. But the sense of seeing, it just looks like everything over there. This doesn't mean that someone who is completely blind is somehow liberated. It just means that we're attached to those senses. It's going to be difficult with any of them. If there's any kind of grasping going on, someone can grasp at hearing if they happen to be without sight. But we have sight, so start with that. Whatever you see, make no determination about it. And that might involve seeing how much you keep thinking about what you're looking at. The awareness that you're thinking, identifying, naming, evaluating, judging.
So Grandma, will you repeat again which one is abstraction and which one is failing?
Failing is to look at whatever's in front of you and not know what it is. To receive any of the sense fields, including what arises in your mind, and not leave what it is for what you think it is. If you don't leave what it is, you won't know it. You have to leave what it is and have thoughts about it. Thoughts are the ones that know things. Thoughts know things. Senses don't know anything. Exactly. Because it takes a while before, through sitting meditation, for one to actually see that the thought process is aligning itself up with the five sense fields and telling you what you're seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. It's a very subtle area there, and it has to be watched. You just have to look. You don't have to stop it. You have to watch the way you think about what you see, smell, taste, touch. You have to add on the thought process to it. And then you also add on a person who sees it, a person who smells, and a person. You create the illusion that we believe is real. And this is the way it starts to come apart. You're looking at it. The wall is the best place to train. Eventually, looking at the wall, look at the texture of the wall. Listen to sounds outside the building. How your butt feels on the cushion, or your hands feel in your cosmic mudra. How your robes feel. Just receive all of that. There's so many things that are coming in the sense fields, including the mind, that if you really are to receive, you will not get bored. Yeah.
So Grandma, you say I'm looking at it and you say you can see it.
I do.
Is that something that you remember how to see?
There's a little bit of that happening sometimes if I'm getting wound up and trying to accomplish something, trying to, like a glass of water, kind of throwing it off the table to try to figure out how that works. I'm being what? Silly? Yeah. Silly. I'm being silly. But I'm just saying that so we can play with that a little bit because then we can see how our mind adds something on to anything that shows up. But to actually just receive, you won't know what it is, and you won't have to generate some kind of special insight. Like I'm just looking, I'm just seeing. Everything has no self, and there's no other. Lecture yourself on some kind of intellectual or structural or conceptual level. This is something we do more in book study. where we actually discuss the concepts and so on. So even there, it can show up so heavily conceptual with one person, and almost on the area in the area of pure intuition with someone else, and one may make more sense than the other, and they may reverse, so that the conceptual area doesn't make as much sense, and the intuitive area makes more sense. This is something Dogen plays with constantly in his teaching. Final question. Is there a final question from anyone anywhere? Especially someone who has not asked a question. Anyone in here? You have one?
Wonderbaum, when is it time to not receive?
You mean to just go like this?
Break the connection and stop receiving?
Are you talking about the four karmas or something else? I think it's situational. If you're training your mind regularly, you're doing a lot of sitting. I'm saying an hour plus a day. This is just a generalization. Some people might sit 15 minutes, and that will be enough to carry them out of their mind stream into reality instead of believing what they're thinking. And other people are going to need a lot of sitting. I had to do a lot of sitting. I can't tell you how much. I didn't keep track of it. I think I stopped counting after about 500 or 600 hours, but I did keep track for a while. And then I thought, what's this about? Keeping track? I'm not getting anywhere anyway. You don't need to know how much I've sat. This is back in the 70s. I'm telling you just from what my experience, what I'm looking at, that you can do this and it's worth it. Gratitude to my teachers and gratitude for my own well-favored mind stream that with all of the terrible crap that has come and gone in my mind in the last 83 years, some of it was the ability, I guess, to just stay with it no matter what. No matter what. I didn't care if I got to the point I didn't care if I failed. I was failing. I was never going to see my true nature. And that seeing of true nature has no result factor to it. Ego is looking for results because ego wants to be included, but the very nature of ego, it can't live in that realm of that understanding as a reality. It can live as an illusion. That's why I call it a clown on the roof. The ego can hang around all it wants. It can comment on stuff, but you just don't buy it. You don't believe it. Go ahead.
Wonderbaum, what happens when we can't receive what the teacher is teaching?
Well, what would you think would happen? Depends on all the other things around that. Is a person highly dedicated and devoted to the teacher, the teaching, and the community? Those are the three jewels. You're going to have that. Otherwise, it's just a thought process and you'll just go in circles. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I'm saying you either, if you need to do this, you need to get into it. And as I said earlier, I'm not saying you couldn't do this by yourself. Go ahead. Maybe you can. I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying I certainly couldn't. I was just, I was so insane when I was in my 20s. I had to have help from somebody. I'm very lucky, you could say, for lack of a better word, that I met my teacher and had enough, wasn't so full of myself that I was able to see I really needed a teacher. He was the one. So I began to study under him and studied under him until he passed away. Yes.
What do we do when the teaching just seems to be too difficult? That when the teacher's teaching is something that we don't want to hear, we don't agree with.
I have several students who feel that way, and some of them feel that way so intensely they leave. They've not done anything wrong. You do whatever you want. You can either do this, you can't. It's not failure. I'm not saying, oh, you weren't ready for the teacher. I'm such this great teacher and you can't understand me. So therefore, I've had people leave. I don't know what it's like to be those people who leave. And I also don't know but what they do see. As some of them have said, I see things differently, or kind of like saying they see better than I do. And perhaps that's true. If you do, then I hope you go out and help people with your great ability to see clearly. I miss those people, all of them. And when I say I miss them, I don't miss them like I needed them or they needed to be my buds or something, or they needed to be my students. I miss them in the sense that my understanding of what I saw, and I could be wrong, be correct, of what I saw, the help that I was giving them, they needed. And they turned away from it. That's how it looks to me. It's just my opinion about it, just how it's how it looked. Could be incorrect because we're all operating in an illusion. I could be believing that part of the illusion. That it just looked like they wanted to awaken, then they might want to do what I said. I didn't say much. I just said sit still and watch what moves. I didn't say believe me, but
Divine, that sounds like a judgment,
on my part.
like you called it an opinion, or,
Well,
how do we hear that if we're not involved in it, and yet we hear the teacher
having an opinion.
having an opinion?
You don't have to get rid of opinions. You just have to be aware that you're operating out of a polarity or some kind of a judgment. Just like I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's like looking at a traffic light. It's that kind of you just see it. And if you're if I'm talking about a meditation student that I've been working with for 10 or 12 years and they go another direction and I don't know what else to say other than I just do the best I can to help the person. And sometimes what I'm doing with them is perceived as being mean to them or disrespectful to them and so on. There's teaching all over about teachers, especially in Buddhism, but in other lineages about teachers who are perceived by their students to be very disrespectful or mean or whatever, and it has helped them realize their true nature. There's a reason these stories are in there, is to help you or me or any of us. I know I couldn't even receive Govind. It took me 10 years to realize that he was my teacher, 6 months before he died. And then I realized it and I couldn't get to him in time to tell him that I realized what he was pointing at. And that at that time, I'd been meditating 40 years. And so I'm not kidding you when I say it takes a long time.
Devon, does a teacher ever stop receiving his or her students?
If it's a true teacher, then there's no one there anymore. So there's still a personality, a personhood is there to some extent, but that seemed to be unreal too. This is unreal. The personhood is unreal. The true teacher will see that everyone else is unreal, but they believe their thoughts and their emotions, their opinions. So they just appear as they really believe who they are and where they're going. And sometimes they believe it so intensely, they just tell you to go screw yourself and they leave. Or they might not say anything. They might just say, well, they might not say anything, might just disappear and not say anything. I've had several students do that. Just no longer talk to them anymore. I think maybe they have some judgments or ideas about me, or they're just tired of this, or they just rather party. They think, why should I sit there and meditate and be bored to death when I could just go to the beach and play canasta and hang out with my friends who are not Buddhists, who are just, have a good time. Play with each other and drink a little bit, not too much. Drink, you don't want to be a drunk, but have a few cocktails. Have some Malbec wine. I had some of that last night. It was very good. Yes.
Devon, does the teacher ever stop receiving?
So fundamentally, the teacher isn't receiving. Receiving is the path. The goal is suffering. The path is train your mind and be aware and receive, no matter how much it stinks, no matter how sour, no matter what, please receive it, receive this world. Don't miss your life because you're going to die. But who you think are is dying, who you actually are won't die. And that may be a blessing, it could be a curse, because all the shit that you've been trying to get rid of is still there in the consciousness. And then it's a free-for-all because consciousness doesn't belong in it. So it's sometimes called.
Passing my question over to
But I thought we hadn't finished yet. Trying to say. What are you trying to say?
Zuko is going to follow up with another question.
Is this kind of a control thing you're trying to do here? You're aware of that. Well, we're good. Go ahead.
SokukoJi. The original question Ondo asked was about working with teaching that is just really, really difficult. And you've talked about students that have left.
Yes. And not wrong. I'm saying, I've said that 5 times already. So it's not incorrect. They're working with what they understand, what they know, and their conceptions, their conclusions about anything, about me or anything else. So they're not liberated beings that are leaving, unless they are. Maybe there's someone who's liberated who's left. There's a few that think they are. Yes.
SokukoJi, what other ways might a student work with a really difficult teaching short of leaving?
Have you heard of the Sanskrit term "suck it up"? I mean, it's not exactly that, but it's like receive it. Try to receive it without leaving it for what it means or who did it or if it's right or wrong. Right? Incorrect. Okay, okay, you've had your hands in this, either they're glued together or you just have a lot of persistence. So I really mean this time. Sokuzan's not here to mock me because I said this is the last question, then I go on because I just love being popular. Go ahead.
I have 2 questions, but first, short question. First question.
Do the second one first.
Okay. So the first one is about what he's asking. The second one is about intention. So regarding intention, you often talk about your 2 teachers, and you said your devotion to them. So I'm wondering, is there any difference between intention and devotion?
The kind of use the word energy is the same because there's no result to devotion, and the intention to see the truth is there's no result to that because it's not a relative result. It's not a PhD. It's the result. The intention is to see the truth, and when you see the truth, because the truth conceptually just talk about it, you are not separate from the truth, so you end up not seeing anything. So this is why it's often said in the various traditions that enlightenment doesn't even happen. There's a ground of suffering. There's a path of go this way, go that way, do this mantra, do this sitting practice, do shikantaza, on and on and on. Study this teaching, study the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, Samdhina Machana Sutra, et cetera. But the intention of devotion is just that. It's just going into the darkness. But you have your teacher there, and you have the teaching, possibly some aspects of the teaching. Some areas of the teaching have been extremely powerful to me. The one in 1981 that I first heard from His Holiness the 18th Karmapa, his statement was, nothing happens. So and he said that just before he died in 1981. I think it was very young, 59. Rangjung Rigby Dorje, this 16th Karmapa. So when I first heard it, I kind of just didn't know how could that possibly have any meaning to it? Nothing happened. But it stayed with me for a long, long time. Apparently a few other people were magnetized by it also, because for a few years there were bumper tags that said nothing happens on them around Chicago. Not a lot of them, maybe 10.
SokukoJi, my earlier question and Ondo's, does suck it up mean not asking questions of the teacher or not bringing the difficulty or asking for help from the teacher?
Don't look for a standard. You're not going to find a standard for it. Basically, when I'm saying that, I'm being a little silly, but I'm also saying just receive whatever's showing up in your mind stream, negativity. If you want to do something with it, the only thing I can think of to do anything with it would be sit, take it to the cushion, not take it to the cushion to get rid of it, to maybe just see more deeply into what's moving in the mind stream at that particular time. You could also go take a nap. What you do or don't do is not so important as what the awareness. See clearly what.
Was it about, I'm thinking of some of the students that have left. Did they push themselves or the relationship to the point of leaving by trying too hard to bring the difficulty to you, or
It might be the other way around. They went the other way. They would not talk to me about it. That's usually what happens. They just it's kind of a metaphysical pout. That you know, you know what I mean? You're just kind of tired of it, and so you just suck it up in the other direction, into me, and my ideas, my opinions. We get tired, and so if you, just to give you some idea, you come to me with that, I might send you into retreat. I was sent into retreat by Trump, which I didn't ask him to go into, if I could go into retreat. He basically told me to go into retreat after I'd only been meditating 7 months, maybe 8 months. So you want to go into retreat? I didn't say that. He said it. And of course, I'm so intimidated by him. I'm standing in front of him that and then it's just as if I'd said, yeah, okay, love your teachings. I'm just down with everything you say. And I just can't wait to go and train my mind to like me more like you. Probably thought that. Is that the last question? Okay, we are done, folks, because I'm 15 minutes over, and I want to tell you right now, so everybody knows that you're always, it's totally polite to leave early. Actually, you can leave after half an hour. You can come late. You can leave early. Your life is your life, and you know, if you can come when we start and when we end, stay till we end. But if you have to do something else, that's not a problem. I have no problem with people coming and going. There are already people on here that have already left. So, and I think that's totally appropriate. So thank you.
Hi, this is Jiezan, the prior at Sokukoji Buddhist Monastery. Sokuzan offers these talks without expecting anything in return. If you value these talks and would like them to continue, please visit our donate page at www.sokukoji.org. Thank you.